What is going on, all you minties? This is the Uncanny Omar from Near Mint Condition, and join me today for an advanced look at the Thunderbolts Omnibus from Marvel Comics. Let's get started. And before getting started, a huge thank you to David Gabriel and the fine folks in Marvel for sending us an advanced copy of this omnibus. This omnibus is due out in the direct market on April 7th, and then of course a couple of weeks later in the book market. Now, one of the things I had to decide before making this video is how do I want to approach this, because this is one of my most wanted omnibus. If you go back a couple of years when I did my top 30 most wanted Marvel omnibus, this was on the top 5. But there is a big thing about this story in here that I don't want to spoil for anybody. So there's a couple things I'm going to do. I'm going to keep it spoiler free, including the artwork that reveals anything, and then there'll be a spoiler section, and then I'll also put all of this in the description down below, all the timestamps where you can go in case you want to stay spoiler free. So much spoiler free that I can't even show the spine of this book because I don't want to give anybody a hint as to what is going on. So what we're looking at here is the direct market cover. On the left hand side is the standard edition cover. Now that I can show the spine because, well, that doesn't give anything away. But the spines are different. But again, this is the direct market cover on the right, and on the left it's the standard edition cover. Now let's look at the back here. Here's all the comics that are collected in here. Justice Like Lightning, that's what it was known as. And I'm going to be talking about the story here in a few seconds without going into any kind of spoilers. The book retails for $125. So let's look at it under the dust jacket. Oh, yes. I think this is the image from issue 25 where they're fighting the new Masters of Evil with the Crimson cowl here. But yeah, you have Ice Master, Claw, Man-Eater. Yeah, all these... Where's Constrictor? He's one of my favorite characters, and I know he appears... There he is. He's in the back. I know he appears in that issue. But yes, this is the Thunderbolts. And like I said, we're going to be talking about them here in a second. But that's the image that you see under the dust jacket. Alright, let's do the spoiler-free part. Here we have Thunderbolts, Volume 1, Justice Like Lightning. And kicking it off with Thunderbolts number 1. And I'll be talking about the mapping here in a little bit. So all of this taking place after the events of Onslaught. So I'll have to talk a little bit about that. So Onslaught was this big, massive crossover in X-Men and the entire Marvel Universe where the entity known as Onslaught destroyed them and sent so many of our heroes to another dimension, if you will, the Heroes Reborn dimension. So all the Avengers are gone, all the Fantastic Four are gone, Iron Man, all these characters are gone. And the Marvel Universe only has X-Men, or mutants rather, and they're not the most beloved people because a lot of humanity blames them for doing this to our heroes. So in steps in a new group of characters, much in like the tradition of the New Warriors, except they're not young. Here we are introduced to the Thunderbolts. You have Citizen V, you have Songbird, you have Mach 1, Meteorite, Techno, and Atlas. Those are your new superheroes that come and help out humanity. So that's pretty much the basis of this. You have a brand new group of characters that show up in the Marvel Universe to help fight crime. And they first appeared, honestly, in the pages of Hulk here. So this is Hulk 449. So this collects, let's talk about what this collects first, and then we go back to the mapping. But this collects Thunderbolts 0 through 33, the annual 1997, Distant Rumblings, which is the -1, -1 issue. And also, like I mentioned here, this is Incredible Hulk 449, artwork here by Mike Deodato Jr., Spider-Man Team Up number 7, Heroes for Hire number 7, Captain America and Citizen V annual 1998, and Avengers number 12. And there's also material here from the Tales of the Marvel Universe, which takes place before Thunderbolts 1. So, the mapping. This is mapped much like the case of New Warriors, where it kicks off with their origin issue, where they first appeared in issue number 1, and then we move on to when they're already a team, an established team, and they show up in the pages of Hulk. So, Peter David wrote Hulk, of course, and this is the Spider-Man team-up book. But the minds behind the Thunderbolts, the creators behind the Thunderbolts, are Kurt Busiek and Mark Bagley. Mark Bagley, I'm sure, is a name that everyone's familiar with. It's Red Spider-Man, New Warriors, and other works. There's Jolt. Jolt is a new character that shows up in issue number 3 and 4, and she joins the team. Like, her whole family was killed by Onslaught, and she decides to join the Thunderbolts because Arnim Zola did some experiments on her. By the way, the origin of the Thunderbolts is all told through the pages of the first annual. So it takes a little bit to find out exactly how they all came to be. But I have to skip that annual and move on to another issue because that annual also has some spoilers. So this is what the cover of issue number 5 looks like. As you can tell, the covers are all bordered in. And I was in the middle of saying something and I can't remember where the hell I was talking about. Oh, issue number 5 is one of my favorite issues, though. It's where the Thunderbolts just go out shopping. They go out on the streets in their street clothes. And, of course, there's always some kind of issues that are... Oh, G.W. Bridge! I forgot he shows up in this, too. He was a character in the pages of X-Force created by Rob Liefeld and Fabian Nicieza. He's got ties with Cable, but he shows up in the pages here. And speaking of Fabian Nicieza ends up taking over the run of Thunderbolts after Kurt Busiek steps down. So this collects everything that of Kurt Busiek, every single page that he wrote. He wrote all the way up to issue 33. And let's skip some more pages here as I try to remember what I was talking about. I guess it must not have been that important. But here's where they team up with the New Warriors, with the Heroes for Hire. Eventually... Oh, this is a really good issue. I love the way that this is done because this is done by Roger Stern. So you have Black Widow, who actually looks really badass by Mark Bagley. I don't know what it is about. Maybe it was just the shadows on her eyes. But here she comes in because she's one of the remaining Avengers that stayed over here. She comes in to talk about the Avengers because, like I said, the Avengers were gone for a year. And they're about to come back. So... But what's cool about this story is that it's written by Kurt Busiek, so Kurt Busiek and Mark Bagley, and then Roger Stern and Ron Frenz take over the flashback. That's really cool. I love that. I love that it's Roger Stern too, Uncle Raj, just delivering old school Avengers stories. And here we have the return of our beloved Marvel characters. Of course, they're all being mind controlled by Baron Zemo. So they have to fight the Thunderbolts, there's misunderstandings, and then after this it goes from Justice Like Lightning to a storyline called Marvel's Most Wanted, because this is where the Thunderbolts, of course because of some misunderstanding and they had to fight the Avengers, are now wanted by the Authority when they return to Earth from their galactic adventure. But eventually, this all leads to a huge... Oh, man, yeah, I could talk about all these stories, I'm sorry. Here's the Great Lake Avengers fight. Baron Zemo comes back, and then, like I said, there's a new Masters of Evil with the Crimson Shroud, and they have to fight them, and then they end up taking over the Masters of Evil's headquarters. So that's where they're at. They meet a new character named Ogre. Here's the flashback of the original Citizen V, and how he got... Well, never mind. You can find out for yourself. This is the fight with the Avengers, issue 12 by George Perez, the phenomenal George Perez. Now... I gotta be careful because we're gonna look at the back, and like I said in the description of the video, I'll put where the spoiler part is and then where the binding part, where I start talking about the binding starts. Okay, so let's look in the back for some extras, as I can't show all of it. And of course, one of the most important things I didn't even get to talk about is Hawkeye, because he does become a part of the team, a real important part of the team. All right, let's get back here. I can't show all of the extras because a lot of them are full of spoilers. But here we have some house ads, some trade paperback covers. Here we have the Prelude. This is a reprint of Incredible Hulk 449, but it's got a cover by, of course, Mark Bagley. And it's just called The Prelude number 1. There are sketches in here, but like I mentioned, it spoils a few things. And here we have, of course, the introduction to the characters of these new characters in the Marvel universe. Here we have the lead up to Thunderbolts Avengers. And the reason I don't want to spoil this is because to me it is like in the top 10 best moments in comic book history. And what's interesting is that I wasn't even reading comics at the time. I didn't even know about the secret. If anybody that watches my channel knows I gave up reading comics right after Onslaught, and this came out in 1997. I was working at a comic book store, and I wasn't reading American comics. I was just reading manga at the time, but Thunderbolts is something that I remember selling out immediately. And this is the cover of the first issue. Let's go back. But I remember it, like, selling out immediately, and I wanted to read it so bad. And eventually, when I came back to comics in 2002, one of the things that I did was try to go and find some of these issues that I've always wanted to read. So it's one of these 90s comics that stands out above the rest. All right, spoilers. Again, spoiler section down at the bottom. Come back or click on the binding part of the video if you want to skip the spoiler stuff. All right, all you brave souls, let's talk about The Secret of the Thunderbolts and what makes it such a kick-ass story. Can't even show the freaking spine, because the spine literally gives away the big secret of the Thunderbolts. And it's all revealed in the pages of the first issue. So at the very end of the first issue is the big revelation. The big revelation is that we've known these characters for a long time. These Thunderbolts are not new at all. However, they used to be villains, or still are villains, rather. So Citizen V is really Baron Zemo, as it's revealed. Techno is really the Fixer. Mach 1 is Beetle. Songbird is really Screaming Mimi. And then we have Atlas, who's really Goliath. And Meteorite, who is really Moonstone. And that was such a mind-blowing event for a lot of us. I had no idea this was coming. I had no idea why this book sold so well. So throughout the first few issues is, you know, these people are villains. And Baron Zemo has a goal, like every supervillain has. And he wants to fool everybody into, you know, making sure that they treat them and trust the Thunderbolts and then eventually betray humanity. Of course, you know, not everybody sees it his way, and then some of these old villains decide, you know, I kind of like being a hero. Jolt is so cute because Jolt has no idea what's going on at first. Oh, but anyway, I can't spoil that much. That's the big thing I wanted to talk about, was the big revelation. So a lot of pages through here have to do with the background of who these characters used to be. That's why when they first show up, you know, the Avengers are like, hey, you guys used to be villains. For them, as a matter of fact, the only hint you get in the first appearance of the Incredible Hulk 449 is the Hulk recognizes Meteorite's, yeah, right here, the girl's voice. Do I know you? And that's because he's met and fought Moonstone in the past. So really nice touches like that. It's a wonderful kick-ass story, and literally Fabian Nicieza picks up from here and you don't miss a beat. Their voices still sound the same after this. You have old school characters. That was one of the beautiful things about this, is that Kurt Busiek was able to tie in the Thunderbolts with everything, with X-Men, with New Mutants, with characters that showed up, obscure characters that showed up in, like, oh my gosh, the Ogre was one of the original Factor 3, and how many of you know who the Factor 3 are? Yeah, in the pages of X-Men, and you know, it's just really cool things like that make me appreciate him and why he's one of my favorite writers. And one of these writers, much like Mark Waid, Peter David, Fabian Nicieza, that can pick up any character and immediately know the history of these characters and just put it down on pen and paper. So that is the beauty of Thunderbolts. And of course, this gorgeous artwork by Mark Bagley, who is in a completely different level. Now, he stays on the book till about issue 50 or so, and then I think it's Patrick Searcher that takes over the run. But even these newer characters have a secret behind them. So there are secrets within secrets. There's betrayals, and it's the story of redemption and what really is heroism. And man, I cannot wait for you all to read. If you don't give a crap about spoilers and you're in this section, pick up this damn omnibus. There's a reason why it was one of my most wanted, and a reason why I had to separate the video. And you all know I never talk about spoilers when I do overviews of books, but I had to for this. So in the back, you see the sketches. And see what I mean? I can't show the sketches because they literally tell you who they are. So these are the characters of Techno. Oh, but he's really the Fixer in hiding. Or Songbird is really Screaming Mimi. So, Firestar. Anyway, let's look at the binding so we can get everybody back. Alright, let's take a look at this binding, because this book is 1,136 pages. So here's that eye. It's actually a pretty good size eye for a book this big. Let's find some spread pages. Okay, so I went back to issue number 1 So we're a few pages in, and again, this is the non-spoilers section, so I went with literally pages 3 and 4. This is laying over really nice. I want to say there's no gutter loss at all, honestly. Let's look in the middle, see what they look like. It's not quite the middle, but it is the return of the heroes and their confrontation when they're being mind controlled by Baron Zemo. But again, laying over really nice. You can see Baron Zemo's body, his fist right here. Let's look in the back for some spreads that aren't spoilers. Okay, we're all the way in the back here, and I forgot that they also introduced this character of Charcoal, who actually was from a contest in a Wizard magazine, like, create your own character, and he ends up with the team. But I just wanted to show what the artwork looks like. So back here, there is just minimal gutter loss. I don't know. It bothers some people, doesn't bother others, but I did want to point that out. But that, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing this book when it comes out, don't forget to check out our sponsor, CheapGraphicNovels.com, your online source for collected editions up to 50% off retail price. Cheap Graphic Novels prides itself on excellent packaging, so your stuff gets to you in excellent condition, and they have amazing customer service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And for all you Minties that are watching, if you're a first-time customer, don't forget to mention that Near Mint Condition sent you their way for a promotional credit on free shipping on your next order. Now, this is only for U.S. customers. CheapGraphicNovels.com, your source for the hottest books with deep discounts, customer service, and excellent shipping that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content, the page count, and the build of this omnibus. Let me know in those comments down below if you're picking it up, if you've never read it, if you love this series and you want to revisit it in this format, if you have the trade paperbacks and you're upgrading. And yes, like I said, try to stay away from spoilers in the comments section, please, just to give everybody a chance to read this wonderful story for themselves. Again, this was the Uncanny Omar. Thank you all so much for watching. Please don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. More importantly, everyone, stay healthy, stay safe. Much love.